210-322, 210-323, 210-324, 210-442, and resolutions number 210-336 and 210-517.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the public hearing and meeting on bill numbers 200655, 210283, 210284, 210285, 210320, 210321, 210322, 210323, 210324, 210442, and resolution numbers 210336 and 210517 stand in recess until 4 p.m. this afternoon.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the public hearing and meeting of this committee of bills numbers 200-655, 210-283, 210-284, 210-285, 210-320, 210-321, 210-322, 210-323, 210-324, 210-442, and resolutions number 210-336 and 210-517 be recessed until 4 p.m. this afternoon. All those in favor of the motion will indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. This committee will stand in recess until 4 p.m., at which time we will reconvene on Microsoft's Teams. For the members, we'll take a short break to allow our technology individuals in 64 to tee up for our stated meeting, council session.
All right, you were just listening into the Philadelphia City Council. That was a committee hearing. I'm not sure exactly which committee that was, but that was a hearing that just ended for a particular or specific committee. So not clear on exactly what that committee was, but they're taking a break right now to then recalibrate and then come back as a committee of the whole, as a whole city council, which would start shortly. So Philadelphia City Council Live starting here early this morning, but starting with another committee. I'm not sure exactly what that committee was about. We'll get some information on that later on. But we should be, as the Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clark just indicated, they should be returning shortly, and then convening as a council of the whole, as they typically do on a Thursday like this. We are in Philadelphia City Council Live. You know that's Thursdays. We do Philadelphia City Council Live in lieu of our typical reality check schedule. We're going to open up the phone lines right now as we wait on Philadelphia City Council. 215-634 8065 866-361-0900 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 as we wait on Philadelphia City Council. Feel free to step in and give us your thoughts on what you're hearing, what you're talking about on the day's news, what you're going through as well. Share all of that, share all your perspectives here as we wait on the Philadelphia City Council to reconvene or to come back as a council of the whole. 215-634 8065 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Feel free to call in and let us know what's on your mind. Also, just want to encourage people later on, if they have some time later on this evening, they can watch and even ask questions during an event that is being held by our partners out in Central Pennsylvania, WITF Public Media. I'll be moderating a discussion, another toward racial justice discussion that is entitled Tracing Family History. And so this panel will be about how our communities trace ancestral roots. That's what we'll be digging into later on this evening at 7 p.m. So for more information, go to witf.org/racial justice. That's the Toward Racial Justice series, which I co-executive produce and also host with WITF Public Media, which is based in Harrisburg, and it is the PBS NPR affiliate, the public media station for all of Central PA. So every now and then we'll get some folks from those conversations here on Reality Check. We're trying to do a better job of that. We're trying to get WITF to connect with us more about that. But some great discussions that take place, and we have an archive of those discussions as well at WITF.org/racial justice. So I know there are a lot of folks out there who are becoming more interested in tracing their roots, becoming more interested in the practice of the space of genealogy. So we're going to be talking about that with experts in that space, including Dean Henry, who's the owner of Family Pearl LLC. He's also a member of the African American Genealogy Group's executive committee. Also Debbie Ann Page, who's co-president of the Staten Island Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, will also be on that panel. And Dr. Gina Page, who is co-founder and president of African Ancestry Incorporated, will also be there. So very much looking forward to that discussion. And, it'll help people sort of navigate, especially as we're coming up on Juneteenth, which is the observance, this annual observance that's become much more and more mainstream and popular about the abolition of slavery in the 19th century. So as we're coming up on Juneteenth, and this is sort of part of that observance and that celebration, tracing family history. So once again, you can register, you can RSVP, and it's free. That's WITF.org/racial justice. It will be live on WITF's YouTube channel. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here today on Philadelphia City Council Live as we wait for Philadelphia City Council. They're probably going to take a minute, because they just came out of one hearing, and then they're going to reconvene as a session of the whole. And so knowing City Council probably it's going to take a while for them to recalibrate and come back on. So we're just going to leave the phone lines open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on City Council Live. Currently, we have 236 homicides in the city of Philadelphia to date, at least according to the latest crime statistics from the Philadelphia Police Department. 236 homicides. Just yesterday, it was 233, and it was at 32%. Yesterday, at 32% above where it was the same time last year. We are now at 33% more homicides, more murders in the city of Philadelphia than the same time last year. So that we still continue to show steady increases in the homicide rate. At the same time last year, we found ourselves witnessing 177 murders in the city of Philadelphia at this same time last year. Now we have 236 murders, so that's much higher than where we were the same time last year. We've also had, in addition to this, nearly 900 people shot, non-fatally shot, in the city of Philadelphia. So it's nearly 900. It's actually the exact amount, or the exact figure, at least, that we know of, specifically the cases that we know of, because it could be people out there getting shot and not reporting it, or going elsewhere for medical care if they're maybe not within city limits, but because there's always that aspect of it too. But the shooting victims that we know of, the non-fatal shooting victims that we know of, 889 shooting victims. That's a 28% increase over the amount of shooting victims, non-fatal shooting victims, that we had the same time last year in Philadelphia. There were about 697 shooting victims at the same time last year in Philadelphia. So it's all important to know. And then it's important to have a grasp of those figures, of those numbers, to also unpack the economic cost. That costs money. That costs money in terms of clearly medical care, so emergency medical response, first responders. That costs money in terms of, particularly for non-fatal firearms victims. That causes money in terms of, rehabilitation. That costs money in terms of lost hours at work. So if people who are getting shot or getting either getting murdered or getting injured will suddenly are not able-bodied. for a lengthy period of time, or perhaps permanently. So there's lost productivity in terms of that. There's lost economy that funnels back into lost dollars that potentially can funnel back into that community. There are the criminal justice costs. So the cost of of the Philadelphia Police Department continue to be incompetent and not solving these homicides and tracking them down and tracking down the perpetrators, and tracking down perpetrators who also are engaged in fire and gun violence. But there's a cost attributed to that, of course. And there's a cost if the few people out there who do get caught and are then processed through the criminal justice system. So far, what we've estimated, this is just reality check estimating this here based on the cost of an average homicide. The cost of an average homicide in the city of Philadelphia, or the average cost of a homicide in the city of Philadelphia, and these are based on city estimates. This is based on the government of Philadelphia, and between the government of Philadelphia and the city controller's office coming up with these estimates, that is about 1.5 million. So every time someone is murdered in the city of Philadelphia, that costs 1.5 million. So you have that. And then the cost of a non-fatal firearm victim is $50,000. That's the average cost. So every time someone gets shot, they don't get murdered, but they get shot and they get maimed and injured. On average, that's $50,000 in cost. So when you look at the number of people who've been non-fatally shot, plus the number of people who've been murdered in the city of Philadelphia, you have about $395 million thus far in 2021. In the first 6 months of 2021, or first less than 6 months of 2021, you have so far a cost of $395 million to the city of Philadelphia. $395 million. So imagine what that $395 million worth of lost economy could go into. But it won't go into anything because it's been lost. It's vanished. So that's nearly $400 million. We're getting close to $500 million already in lost economic activity in the city of Philadelphia. So if last year we were about $1 billion by the end of 2020, we were about $1 billion in lost money, lost cost, lost economic productivity in the city of Philadelphia. Imagine, we're getting very close to that billion mark. We'll probably get there at this rate before the end of 2021. So you're probably, we're projecting more than $1 billion worth of lost productivity, of lost economy in the city of Philadelphia. So, who wants to hear about lost economy in a city with a nearly 40% poverty rate that we know, official poverty rate? Who wants to hear about lost economy in a city where workforce participation among the hardest hit and most distressed residents in the city is very low? Who wants to hear about that, right? So, and hence it does lead to a discussion on, well, why are we talking about tax cuts? Now, tax cuts, the whole notion of a parking tax cut and trying to revive good parking jobs, which is a very unusual and bizarre thing when we look at kind of the national stage. We look at the national landscape. That's a very new thing. That's a very unique Philadelphia thing, trying to revive good parking jobs, and also giving tax cuts to parking industry magnates. Okay, so we're not seeing this happening in other cities where they're like, hey, we have to give a parking tax cut so we can try to revive our city's economy. What we are seeing nationwide, the trends, the patterns that we are seeing nationwide, some cities are toying around with the idea of tax cuts for homeowners, right? Cutting property taxes. So there are certain cities that have already engaged in, cuts in property taxes. There are proposals on the table in Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago that we've seen. We're looking elsewhere to see if they're happening, where people are talking about individual tax cuts or property tax cuts. That we have been seeing, and that's something that we have to watch also very carefully as well. You have to watch that very carefully, this nationwide trend of, as cities are going through recovery, as they're receiving federal a very generous amount, mind you, of federal pandemic relief dollars. And, then they're engaging in tax cuts. Okay, well, how are they going to? They are not allowed to pay for those tax cuts. This is based on federal law and based on the federal pandemic relief provisions. Cities are not allowed to use those tax cuts. I'm sorry, to use that federal pandemic relief money to pay for those tax cuts. They cannot do that. So they have to find money elsewhere, as we had the executive director of the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority explain earlier this week here on Reality Check in our exclusive conversation with him, which we have every month. You know, he was saying, he was very like explicit about that. Like, you have to find other pockets of money, or you have to have other revenue projections, future revenue projections that are going to fill the hole of those tax cuts. Okay, so on sort of a basic level here, when you engage in a tax cut, you take money out of the city's bank account, or you take money out of a government's bank account. So, you know, because that's the primary vehicle for a government, particularly a city government like Philadelphia, to generate revenue, to bring money into its bank account, and to operate as a fully functional government. So with all these federal pandemic relief dollars coming in, that's going to be kind of a tricky game there, is to watch carefully and to make sure that the city, as you have some of the policymakers who are proposing tax cuts, okay, well, are you going to be using these federal pandemic relief dollars? Are you going to, through some sort of accounting wizardry, you know, create a situation where those relief dollars are being used for those tax cuts, and that's why suddenly you're being so enthusiastic about a tax cut. If that happens, if we find that that's happening, they're not supposed to do that. That's illegal, based on the provisions of the federal American Rescue Plan. Those pandemic relief dollars are not supposed to be doing that. So folks need to keep a very close eye on that. The other thing, so we need to watch that pattern for that reason. One, making sure these various city and state governments are not using federal pandemic relief dollars to fill up these fill the void left behind by, you know, really, you can safely or confidently argue that at this time are rather irresponsible tax cuts. Like, we shouldn't be talking about tax cuts or taking resources and money out of government coffers at a time when we're trying to go through recovery period, and especially at a time when we're seeing a trend in many of these places where things like rental assistance dollars and mortgage or homeowner assistance dollars are not getting to the people that need them most. Vast majority of those dollars in many places are not getting to people who need it the most. So let me give you an example, another city example. District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., slightly majority black city, you know, similar to Philadelphia. It's been heavily gentrified. At one point, D.C. just like 25 years ago was like 60, nearly 70% black. Now it's just like barely 50. So it's been getting gentrified very rapidly. The District of Columbia, the city-state hybrid that functions as the local government for the District of Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, they received $200 million. Okay, this is for a city that has a population of just over 600,000 people. So it's less than, it's under half of what the city of Philadelphia is. They received $200 million just for rental assistance, because they have high poverty rate. Like, it's very drastic. You know, one area of the district, like around the Capitol Hill area, it's you know, it's fairly upwardly mobile. And then you cross over what's called the Anacostia River, and it gets very poor, very quick, very fast. And those are the blackest neighborhoods in that city. So they have very high poverty rates, particularly that are concentrated in wards like Ward 8 and Ward 7, Wards 5, 7, and 8, right, where you have these high pockets of like black neighborhoods, the highly concentrated pockets of black residents. They received $200 million. That's a significant amount of money for a city of that size to help people with rental relief. They've used barely $4 million of that. That's $200 million. They have yet to use even $5 million of that money for rental relief. And I know there's a lot of people hurting that have been going through pandemic, that have been going on jobless, that need that rental relief. So those are federal dollars that went to that city. So that's, the district is not the only one. There are other cities where, and it's cities like Philadelphia where you, or other places where you still have, it's still unclear if federal relief dollars are getting the people who need it the most. And it's still unclear as to what's taking people so long, what's taking bureaucracy so long to channel that money to those households or to those individuals. So, you know, we have that. So you have that issue. The other issue too is that you're seeing a huge increase. We've been seeing this throughout the latter half of pandemic. There's been some reporting on this in a number of newspapers like the Wall Street Journal. You're seeing a huge increase in the number of private investment corporations buying up residential property wherever it's available, wherever they can find it in any major city. And okay, Philadelphia City Council is back on. Let's tune in.
Be made at the beginning of every remote council session. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Inquirer, and the Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting, and can be also found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance. Members that are in attendance will please indicate that you are present. When your name is called, we would like for your image to be displayed on the screen, so you may say a couple of additional words. Mr. McDermott, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Mr. Decker, please call the roll. I'm sorry, sir.
It's okay, Mr. President. Councilwoman Brooks.
Present.
Councilman Dom.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues, and the City of Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Present. Present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
President, good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Heenan.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, colleagues. Present.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, colleagues. Mr. President, I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman O. Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Kennedy Sanchez.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
And good morning to all. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes the Reverend Robert Collier, Capilla Baptist Church. She is here today as a guest of Councilwoman Kim. I would ask all members and guests, please bow your head.
Good morning, Council President Clark. Thank you for the introduction. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to offer our prayer this morning. We begin by thanking you for keeping us safe over the night and waking us up this morning in our right minds with a good portion of health and strength. Not only that, Lord, but we thank you for providing us daily bread, a roof over our heads, and clothing on our backs. We thank you for these elected officials who serve so diligently on City Council. Keep every council member healthy and safe. Give them individually and collectively the wisdom that they need to make decisions that are best for the citizens of Philadelphia, regardless of zip code in which the residents reside, whether they live in Northeast or North Philadelphia, in Kensington or Chestnut Hill. May all Philadelphians have visible evidence that every council member is equally concerned about them. Let no member of this esteemed body ever make a decision that robs the poor and needy and give to the rich and prosperous. May every bill that is passed be based on what is right, just, and fair. Your word says that we have not because we ask not. So during these times when the budget is being considered, we do have a few things to ask of you, God. First, we ask that the $100 million for violence prevention that Black clergy is advocating for to be used to fund successful violence prevention initiatives become a part of the budget. Also, we ask that the $50 million for a youth-powered anti-violence agenda being requested by Councilmember Helen Gann and several of other council members also be a part of the budget. A minimum of $150 million to fund community groups, job programs for youth, recreation center staffing and repairs. Mental health programs is just the beginning of what is needed to stem the spread of violence, especially gun violence. Let no member of City Council rest until he or she does his or her part to vote for a budget that helps curb the rising tide of violence. Gun violence is the second pandemic that we face. Lord, we know that it's not going to vanish on its own. God, it took you directing the hands and minds of scientists for effective vaccines for COVID-19 to be found. Now, because of that, we have seen a monumental reduction in the number of people dying from COVID-19 pandemic. We know, God, that it will take that same kind of monetary investment to get rid of the gun violence. Lord, it was not your way or your will that 499 people died of gun violence last year. We did not do our part. Heavenly Father, touch the hearts of council members and let the budget reflect a minimum of $150 million targeted for violence prevention, especially the gun violence pandemic. Touch hearts and let no tax breaks and tax cuts be given to those corporations or individuals who are prospering, and let the tax money go where it belongs, to those who are suffering from hunger, suffering from homelessness, suffering from rent evictions, suffering from mortgage foreclosure, suffering from the lack of adequate job opportunities, suffering from a lack of adequate mental health care, suffering because their neighborhoods are deteriorating, suffering because for so long they have been neglected, bypassed, and discounted. Almighty God, we call on you to give the victory to the poor, give the victory to the downtrodden, give the victory to that so that no mother or father will continue to cry out in pain and agony because their child was killed, be that child 2 or 22, 4 or 40. We know that what we do for the least of these, we have done for you. Heal our city, God. Heal Philadelphia, God. This is our prayer. In the matchless, marvelous, and miraculous name. Amen.
Okay, very interesting invocation. Thank you for your spiritual guidance, and actually thank you for your additional commentary.
Thank you so much, President Carr.
Okay. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting, Thursday, May 27, 2021, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 27th, 2021 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 27, 2021 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and the journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Chair thanks the council lady. And our next order of business is communications. And Mr. Decker, will you please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that you may have in your possession?
Yes, Mr. President.
From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on June 9, 2021, I signed the following bills which were passed by council at its session on May 27, 2021. Bill numbers 210074 and 210331. And I am submitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 2553 Current Street in the 1st Councilmanic District, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1931 through 33, 1939, 1943 North Lawrence Street, 431, 433, 434, 438, 443 Arlington Street, 415, 417, 418, 424 West Norris Street, 1707 North Oriana Street, 2914, 2916, 29 through 2924, and 2926 North 2nd Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 28 Rieger Street and 5026 North 7th Street, located in the 8th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 5th Councilmanic District. And a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Model Cities urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 1221 through 1225 North 4th Street. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1921 South 6th Street and 2544 South 5th Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2212 Vernon Street and 2214 Vernon Street, located in the 2nd Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1908 North Lithgow Street and 2547 North Mutter Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1611 through 41 Bruin Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And a resolution appointing George Pegram to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Municipal Authority, and a resolution appointing Jacqueline Dunn to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Municipal Authority, and a resolution reappointing Lynette Brown-So to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Municipal Authority, and a resolution appointing Michael Hill to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Municipal Authority, and a resolution reappointing Robert Zavisky to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Municipal Authority, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Thank you very much. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we are asking that all resolutions, including privileged resolutions, be placed on the final passage calendar for our next session of council, unless they're being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide an opportunity for public comment. And I want to thank you very much in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of the legislation then being offered by the members today.
Councilwoman Parker offers on behalf of Council President Clark a resolution confirming the appointment of Matthew Stitt to the Board of the Philadelphia Energy Authority to serve in the term ending January 1, 2024.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers two resolutions. On behalf of Council President Clark, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And on our own behalf, a resolution honoring and recognizing Adam Agalako for his service to the city of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gim offers one resolution entitled a resolution urging the Pennsylvania Department of Public Health to restore funding to Philadelphia, Delaware Valley chapter of the Sickle Cell Disease Association of America and recognizing the SCDAA/PDBC's nearly 39-year dedication to providing culturally competent services and to raising awareness of the serious condition of sickle cell disease.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Jones offers an ordinance approving the amendment to the Articles of Incorporation of the City Avenue Special Services District of Philadelphia and Lower Merion to extend the term of existence of the district to December 31, 2042.
Refer to committee.
Councilman Johnson offers a resolution urging Congress to pursue reconciliation and reparations regarding the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre and the lasting devastation it caused.
Next, please, calendar.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez offers 3 resolutions entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1931 through 33, 1939, 1943 North Lawrence Street, 431, 433, 434, 438, 443 Arlington Street, 415, 417, 418, 424 West Norris Street, 1707 North Oriana Street, and 2914, 2916 through 24, and 2926 North 2nd Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1908 North Lithgow Street and 2547 North Mutter Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1611 through 1641 Rowan Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Also next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Brooks and Councilwoman Bass offer a resolution recognizing and honoring the staff of the Philadelphia Department of Parks and Recreation for their dedicated service as essential workers through the COVID-19 pandemic.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Dom offers a resolution authorizing the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold hearings regarding making permanent in the Philadelphia Code to permit outdoor dining spaces on city streets and sidewalks and the outdoor entertainment sidewalk cafe rules established during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Today's calendar.
Councilwoman Gauthier offers 3 resolutions entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 3rd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution recognizing Saturday, June 19, 2021 as Juneteenth Independence Day in the city of Philadelphia in honor of June 19, 1865, the day when enslaved black people were finally freed in the United States of America, declaring the annual Juneteenth Philly Festival and Johnston House Historic Site Festival as Philadelphia's official Juneteenth celebrations, and advocating for the city of Philadelphia to become the official home of the National Juneteenth Independence Day celebration.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution celebrating the life and honoring the memory of Sabur Muhammad.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Thomas offers 1 resolution honoring and congratulating 19-year-old R&B singer and Philadelphia native Cam Anthony for winning season 20 of The Voice, $100,000 and a recording contract with Universal Music Group.
Next.
Councilman Squilla offers 3 resolutions entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 2553 Current Street in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1921 South 6th Street and 2544 South 5th Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2201 East Tioga Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers 1 bill and 1 resolution entitled an ordinance amending section 94116 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Health Emergency Leave to expire upon termination of the federal proclamation 9994 of national emergency concerning the coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 pandemic.
Mr. Decker, was that a bill or resolution?
That was an ordinance, Mr. President.
That's okay. Refer to committee.
And a resolution proposing the establishment of the Philadelphia Promise Trust Fund.
Next week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. That concludes the introduction of bills and resolutions. And our
Mr. President, I apologize, Mr. President. I'd like to be recognized regarding the Promise Trust Fund.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the years, we've all seen the articles and stories about very wealthy individuals sitting on tiny chairs in kindergarten classrooms with a group of hopeful 5-year-olds. The cameras flash and the smiling children celebrate the announcement of a fund established to get them to college. Not one of them or some of them, but all of them understand that this is a game changer. This is something that will give them a real shot, something to look forward to. The notion that college is attainable is a game changer for these kids, and the donors know it, the teachers know, the parents know, and even the 5-year-olds know that something big is going to happen to me. Over the years, an article comes out here or there, touting their progress, until finally an article comes out detailing the end result, which is usually that almost all of those same youth have been accepted to college and are on their way. The fund was established, the promise was kept, and off they go to a world of opportunities and possibilities that otherwise would have likely been unlikely, would have been unlikely to materialize. Fast forward to 2021, and the need to go big, the need to go bold, the need to fundamentally change the trajectory of our young people who feel they have nothing to aim for. Where's the fund established for their futures? What promises have we made? How can we have expectations of a better forward-facing path for them if those of us who have gone before them do not build that path? And that's what we're going to do through establishing the Philadelphia Promise Trust Fund. Similar to other funds established in other cities, states, and countries around the world, the Philadelphia Promise Trust Fund would set aside a lump sum of money to invest directly in our youth. As an individual who is eligible turns 18, funds set aside will be available for investment in higher education, such as college or trade and technical school, or investment in their first home when they're ready, a business venture, or other future endeavor. We believe the investment of $500 million to youth in target income brackets, zip codes, and or census tracts will complement the other calls for investment in this budget. These funds could come from the American Rescue Act or from the other grants being received from the Biden administration that are meant to transform our cities and the futures of those left behind. We have a real opportunity to have a robust discussion on what we're really going to do to change the lives and future of young people in the city. And let's not waste a moment when we could begin changing lives immediately. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you very much. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is the reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Green, who will report from the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Council President. The Committee on Finance reports out 4 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, read the report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Finance, which is referred Bill number 210475, entitled, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Planning and Development on behalf of the city to file applications with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for a community development block grant, to file applications to participate in the Home Investment Partnership Program and the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and to apply for a Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS grant. And Bill number 210476, entitled an ordinance approving the amendment of the fiscal year 2021 capital budget, providing for expenditures for the capital purposes of the Philadelphia Gas Works, including the supplying of funds in connection therewith, subject to certain constraints and conditions. And Bill number 210477, entitled an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2022 capital budget, providing for expenditures for the capital purposes of the Philadelphia Gas Works, including the supplying of funds in connection therewith, subject to certain constraints and conditions. And Bill number 210508, entitled an ordinance authorizing the city treasurer on behalf of the city to enter into a provider agreement with Citizens Bank of Pennsylvania for provision of payroll banking services to the city. Respectfully reports it has considered and amended the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 210475, 210476, 210477, and 210508.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210-475, 210-476, 210-477, and 210-508. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and it will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a report from the Committee on Law and Government.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Law and Government reports out 5 bills and 3 resolutions with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
The Committee on Law and Government, to which is referred bill number 200075, entitled an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of a proposal set forth in a resolution approved by council, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to provide for the creation of a Department of Fleet Services. And bill number 210329, entitled an ordinance amending chapter 91100 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Fair Practices Ordinance, Protections Against Unlawful Discrimination, to require the use and disclosure of uniform screening criteria for rental housing and certain related disclosures to prospective rental housing applicants, and to provide that failure to provide such disclosures may be evidence of other unlawful housing and real property practices. And bill number 210330, entitled an ordinance amending chapter 9800 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Landlord and Tenant, by adding a new section 9810 entitled Prospective Tenant Screening Practices to regulate the application and selection process for housing units. And bill number 210501, entitled an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to revise provisions related to the manner of selection from eligible lists for vacancies and promotions in the civil service, as approved by resolution of the City Council. And bill number 210507, entitled an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to provide for a mandatory annual appropriation for the Housing Trust Fund, as approved by resolution of the City Council. And resolution number 200079, entitled a resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to create the Department of Fleet Services, to transfer the functions of certain agencies with respect to motor vehicles to the newly created department, and to provide for additional duties of the department. And resolution number 210514, entitled a resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to revise provisions related to the manner of selection from eligible lists for vacancies and promotions in the civil service system. And resolution number 210524, entitled a resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter providing for a mandatory annual appropriation for the Housing Trust Fund, and providing for the submission of the proposed amendment to the electors of Philadelphia. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached bills and resolutions to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. Again, recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 200075, 210329, 210330, 210501, and 210507.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading this day of bills number 200075, 210329, 210330, 210501, 210507. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. These bills will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. Resolution number 200079 and 210514 and 210524 will be placed on our final passage calendar at our next session of council. Chair now recognizes Councilman Heenan for a report from the Committee on Public Property and Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Property and Public Works reports out 12 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Public Property and Public Works, to which is referred bill number 200662, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into a sublease agreement with the Philadelphia Municipal Authority for use by the city of a portion of the premises located at 11311 Roosevelt Boulevard. And bill number 200677, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Department of Public Property to acquire on behalf of the city an easement in the area bounded by Chestnut Street, 12th Street, Market Street, and 11th Street. And Bill number 210076, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to convey to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development a parcel of land situated at 2401 Chestnut Street for further conveyance. And Bill number 210248, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city of Philadelphia to enter into a lease agreement with St. Agnes MOB for use by the city of a portion of the premises located at 1930 South Broad Street. And Bill number 210281, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city of Philadelphia to acquire fee simple title or a lesser real estate interest from Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to all or a portion of a parcel or parcels of land bordered by Richmond Street to the north-northwest, Wheat Sheaf to the east-northeast, I-95 to the west, and the Northeast Treatment Plant to the south-southeast for water treatment or supply purposes or other purposes. And Bill number 210282, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to acquire fee simple title or lesser interest in real estate by purchase, dedication, donation, condemnation, agreement in lieu of condemnation, or otherwise, in parcels of land along the Delaware River and the Tacony-Holmesburg section of the Delaware River Trail. And Bill number 210293, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to enter into a sublease agreement with Chestnut Street Realty Limited Partnership for use by the city of a portion of the premises located at 1327 through 29 Chestnut Street. And Bill number 210418, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to convey to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania all or a portion of a parcel or parcels of land in and about the area bounded by Kingston Street, I-95, East Venango Street, and Bath Street. And Bill number 210419, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to grant to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation a temporary construction easement on a portion of the parcel or parcels of land in and about the area bounded by Richmond Street, East Butler Street, I-95, and Castor Avenue, commonly known as 3721 Richmond Street. And Bill number 210424, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to enter into a sublease agreement with the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development for use by the city of a portion of the premises located at 1101 Market Street. And Bill number 210444, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to acquire fee simple title or a lesser interest in real estate by purchase, dedication, donation, condemnation, agreement in lieu of condemnation, or otherwise, in parcels of land connecting Tacony Street to the Frankfurt Arsenal boat launch for public recreational purposes. And Bill number 210450, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city of Philadelphia to enter into an amendment to a lease agreement with Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, SEPTA, for use by the city of a portion of the premises located at 1234 Market Street by the city. Respectfully reports that it is considered the same and returns your text bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading of this day, the 12 bills that were just read into the record by the clerk.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of the 12 bills that were just read into the record by the clerk. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. And these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilman Heenan for a report from the Committee on the License and Inspection.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on License and Inspections report out 5 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Licenses and Inspections, which is referred Bill number 210117, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 93700 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Bouncers, by revising definitions of covered establishments and personnel. And Bill number 210205, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 9 of the Subcode PM, the Philadelphia Property Maintenance Code, of Title 4 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Additional Special Requirements, to establish a program in which the city may perform certain urgent repairs and bill the property owner. And Bill number 210388, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 9-1000 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Trades, to modify licensing and conduct requirements applicable to contractors. And Bill number 210389, entitled An Ordinance Amending Title IV of the Philadelphia Code, entitled The Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code, and Title IX of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Regulation of Businesses, Trades, and Professions, to revise provisions relating to excavation work and work impacting historic structures, create an excavation contractor license, and institute additional safeguards for property adjoining certain construction activities. And Bill number 210481, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 9600 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Service and Other Businesses, to modify the requirements to operate a self-service laundry. Respectfully reports that it's considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair again recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading of this day, bill numbers 210117, 210205, 210388, 210389, and 210481.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210117, 210205, 210388, 210389, and 210481. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. And these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilman Johnson for a report from the Committee on Transportation and Public Utility.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities report out of this committee one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Please read the report.
The Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities, to which is referred bill number 210505, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Procurement Commissioner and the Chief Executive Officer of Philadelphia International Airport on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into an amendment to a concession agreement for the management of the food, beverage, retail, and passenger services program at Philadelphia International Airport, and an amendment to the Ancillary Additional Services Agreement. Respectfully reports that it's considered the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill number 210505.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210505. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Baird for a report from the Committee on Public Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Health and Human Services reports out two bills with a favorable recommendation.
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Please read the report.
The Committee on Public Health and Human Services, to which is referred bill number 210510, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 6200 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Preventative Medicine, by adding a new section offering gift certificates to citizens and property owners of Philadelphia who received vaccinations for COVID-19 in order to incentivize immunizations against the disease. And bill number 210511, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 6200 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Preventative Medicine, by adding a new section offering vouchers for rebates on city gas and water charges to citizens and property owners of Philadelphia who received vaccinations for COVID-19 in order to incentivize immunizations against the disease. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 210510 and 210511.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210510 and 210511. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. And these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. That concludes our reports from committee, and our next order of business is the consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had a first reading. These bills will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning the resolution on the final passage calendar today.
Council President.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. For the consent agenda, I would like to have resolutions 523 and 525 removed from the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Mr. Decker? Did you get that?
Yes, Mr. President.
All right. The record shall reflect that.
Council President, I would like to make a similar request.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Yes. I would like to request that resolution, 210516 be removed from the consent agenda as well.
Okay. Mr. Decker, you get that? All right. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay. They shall be taken off. Okay, the record shall reflect that the request by both Councilman Green and Councilwoman Gim will have those removed from the consent agenda. Okay, our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I noted that the bills just reported from committee with suspension of the rules.
Mr. President.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I got a little thing. I got too many messages coming through. I got to ask my colleagues, please stop sending me messages. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following resolutions on the final passage calendar. They are resolutions number 210257, 210512, 210513, 210515, 210519, 210520, 210521, 210522, 210526, 210528, 210529, 210530, 210531, 210532, and 210533. And again, Mr. President, resolutions numbers 210516, 210523, 210525 will be removed from the consent agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. It has been moved and probably second that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of consent agenda to consider the resolutions just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries, and we will consider the resolution consent agenda shortly. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning the bills on the second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following bills on the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210713, 210362, 210425, 210328, 210627, 210333, 210334, 210390, 210391, 210392, 210393, 210394, 210412, 210413, 210414, 210415, 210416, 210422, 210447, and 210448.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the bills just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries, and we will consider the consent agenda shortly. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker. Calling up. Go off track. Calling up bills on resolution on the regular second reading. I'm sorry. I got a lot of stuff right there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to the resolutions and bills being considered on the consent agenda, the following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210, 215, 210518, 210206, 210081, 210332, 210423, and 210364. All other bills and resolutions are being held, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Parker and Majority Leader. Okay, before we proceed with the consideration of the public comment, we will take a brief 5 to 10 minute recess to give our technology professionals some time to connect the speakers we have for today's meeting. We'll take a brief break.
All right. Welcome back. We are still live in City Council Live. The convening of the Philadelphia City Council session as a whole here live on WURD. You don't get this anywhere else but WURD. We're listening in closely to this session, taking a break for public comment period. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
No one has a perfect rule book for parenting, yet we all have a story about how the presence or absence of a father impacted our lives. First Person Arts and EMOC Philly present a multi-ethnic celebration of enduring love and emotional resilience in Letter to My Father, Letter to My Son, Evolution. Streaming on Zoom at 7 p.m. on Thursday, June 17th. The event is free, but registration is required. Visit firstpersonarts.org to sign up.
One thing we all have in common is aging, so age boldly by staying healthy, active, and independent. With Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, you can. PCA supports older Philadelphians with care in the home, nutritious meals, protective and legal services, and more. Through the pandemic, we safely helped older adults by delivering more than 2 million meals and easing social isolation. Get the help you need to age boldly and actively with PCA. Learn more at 215-765-9040.
Are you a leader in your community, helping children get a good education? Do you work to give kids quality learning opportunities and a strong start in life? The William Penn Foundation's Racial Equity Grant Fund is awarding grants up to $40,000 to small nonprofit organizations that are led by people of color and focused on education in Philadelphia. Apply now through June 25th at williampennfoundation.org. That's williampennfoundation.org.
AARP proudly celebrates our historic 156th anniversary of Juneteenth, June 19, 1865, when the last slaves were finally emancipated in Texas. We free? That's the compelling question they asked then, and we still ask today. After over 400 years of building this country, African Americans, as in 1865, are last to America's table. We honor our ancestors and continue to pose their question. We free?
Freedom, freedom. Black joy comes from the sound of our souls. It's the sound of our resilience, our strength, our swag, our love for one another, our spirit, our shine, our brilliance. Because no matter what challenges we face, Black joy is limitless and empowering. Visit aarp.org/Black community as we celebrate Juneteenth.
Employers, are you hiring? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal to help connect you with diverse talent in Philadelphia and beyond. To have your job featured on our job portal, give us a call at 215-425-7875 or send us an email at sales@wordradio.com. Check out the job portal today on our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to City Council Live. We are live on City Council Live listening to the Philadelphia City Council. They are just taking a very short break to set up for public comment period. Public comment period is coming up next, so let's see what we get there in public comment period. I'm not sure if you heard it. I did hear it a bit earlier on when council convened as a session of the whole when they started it right before they kind of went into council business. And by the way, too, phone lines are open if we have like 5 or 10 minutes or so while they set up. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. But I'm not sure if you heard it, but I know a few other people did because I got some private communications regarding this as it was happening. But it was the invocation. It was the invocation that was delivered by Reverend Robert Collier, who is the head of the Philadelphia Black Clergy of Philadelphia and vicinity. That was more than sort of your standard invocation. It was indeed, there were visible signs that was a political statement. So quite controversial. Typically invocations are just given as it's a standard, it's a long time tradition. For any legislature, they start off their meetings or their convenings with a prayer. And typically what we hear out of Philadelphia City Council are, your standard well wishes, polite well wishes from clergy, from a number of, religious persuasions in the city of Philadelphia. It doesn't necessarily have to always be, Christian. Sometimes it's Muslim, sometimes it's, a rabbi or two or someone from another religion. But yeah, it was a very interesting invocation I want to talk about a little bit later on. Okay, Philadelphia City Council is back on. Let's go into that public comment period.
Tell you how we're going to consider the public comment. The public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final passage calendars for possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation, and add your name to the list. We will telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Under ideal circumstances, they will each have 3 minutes, but today, because of the volume, we're going to have 2 minutes per speaker, so please adjust your testimony to reflect a 2-minute time limit. In order to be fair, all those wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. So once invited to the meeting, ask to begin your testimony. A timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony. And when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. Also reserve the right to limit the number of speakers where repetitious comments are being made on the same matter, and to limit the scope of testimony to only certain items on the agenda during the emergency, which could affect callbacks for the public comment at the meeting. Please be aware that the public meeting is being recorded. Because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. I will now ask Mr. Decker, please read the first name on the list of our speakers today.
Yes, Mr. President. The first speaker today is Jose Nunez, commenting on 210081.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Yes, hello. My name is Jose Nunez, and I'm calling on bill number 210081. Thank you, council members. I'd like to say that I oppose this bill. I do agree in some form of regulation, but as the current bill is being proposed, I don't agree. I'm an operator of short-term rentals in Rittenhouse. I'm a minority small business owner. Now, these are the reasons why I disagree with the bill, particularly the CMX3 component. Parties, my units are small, mostly all studios, 400 square feet. I limit it to 2 people max. I don't have any large homes. I've never had an issue with parties. I see as the city opens, more people are going to go out to nightclubs instead of charter party at home. because of the COVID restrictions. Garbage, I operate in small buildings. Trash isn't a problem. Now, the affordable housing component in regards to STR, I'm in Center City, I'm in Rittenhouse, not a low-income area. Rents are higher. Affordable housing, rental units, have more to do with providing builders, developers with low-income tax credit and abatements than with short-term rentals. Perhaps introducing a bill that mandates developers to provide a certain percentage of their units to mixed-use income families, similar to New York City. If anything, the current price of construction lumber affects the prices of affordable housing building. Now, given these reasons, it would come to agree that the bill in its current state would negatively impact me and is not effective. Like I like to say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We hosted frontline workers while hotels were closed. Now they're the only ones to benefit. Now this would cause undue hardship to me and my family, resulting in losing 90% of my income. I plead and I beg this committee and its members to push this vote back at least until September. Let's sit down and discuss solutions, have meaningful conversations. Let's sit down and collaborate. As your constituents, we're asking for a voice. Help us help you, working together for the mutual benefit of the city, its residents. We will make Philadelphia not just recover from the pandemic, but thrive. Sharing our city, sharing our history, and sharing our progressive ideologies, and sharing our homes and our vision of a prosperous Philadelphia. I'm proud to be a resident, but prouder that you, as our representatives, will do your best to help your city, your district, your constituents, your families. Make the right choice. I believe in all of you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it.
The next speaker is Jennifer Jordan, commenting on 210081.
Good morning. I'll state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, City Council. Thank you for taking the time to hear my testimony. My name is Jennifer Jordan. I have spoken in opposition of this bill 210081 over the course of this year. I have commented about my hosting standards in previous calls, so I won't mention it today, but I wanted to share the stories of the people who work with me, as well as my guests. I hire cleaners and assistants to help me keep my short-term rental properties in good shape. Most of the people I hire are supporting their families with the income they make with me. Some cleaners work with me in addition to their day job. They work to help pay down their student loans, save for travel, or save to buy a car. Every person I hire cares about Philadelphia and each of the properties they care for with me. They are real people who would be negatively impacted by this bill. As for my guests come to Philly for many reasons. They are fully vaccinated folks visiting family members for the first time this year, and they picked the neighborhoods where hotels don't exist to visit their family. They are international travelers coming to the U.S. to get vaccinated. Many guests are residents of nearby cities looking for a change of place. Many guests have worked remotely over the last year, and they make the rental their home base and their home away from home. They also support local businesses. I host people with food allergies who cannot cook their meals, who need to cook their meals indoors, and families seeking treatment in our world-class hospitals. They need the privacy of a home and the amenities that go with it. Short-term rental is creating an industry as well as an asset to the city. Thank you for hearing my testimony.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Louis Baum, commenting on 210081.
Good afternoon. State your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Louis Baum, B-A-U-M. Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. President, council members, and guests. I represent the 46th Ward Democratic RCO. Because written testimony has been emailed to council, I will limit my remarks. Bill 210081 contains good ideas for improving processes. However, we are asking that the bill be amended in two crucial ways prior to passage. The bill should not be approved unless amended, A, to protect rather than terminate the role of long-term residential communities in decision-making by restoring the zoning use permit requirement that presently applies. If not amended, this bill will remove this only point of community input. And B, assure that robust requirements for ongoing compliance monitoring and enforcement are designed and published and that responsibilities are clear. This includes handling of neighbor complaints. No doubt council members are aware of the level of problems here, and we have firsthand experience ourselves. In general, we urge council to preserve our community's voices by never allowing short-term rentals by right in residential districts. Council must ensure that the city protects our community structure and community life from impact and harm, including that caused by undesirable incursion of short-term housing. Without community participation, without other provisions limiting the unwanted penetration of short-term housing in residential communities, we risk rampant speculation in short-term housing, which will undermine and irrevocably decay our long-term communities. Communities experiencing gentrification pressure are at higher risk that locally clustered short-term operations will create de facto blockbusting. We thank you in advance for your attention and your continued support of the needs of our existing long-term communities.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Nick Schmidt, commenting on 210081.
Good afternoon. Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Council. My name is Nick Schmid. I'm against Bill 210081. My wife and I are both frontline healthcare workers. We're registered nurses who work in critical care. We've served the Philadelphia community for years. We have 2 kids under the age of 3 years old, and this past year we purchased a legal duplex. We're responsible hosts who closely monitor our guests as well as maintain our property. We regularly clean up trash on our streets and interact with neighbors in our parks and community. My concerns are related to the additional regulations and licenses being required by hosts and limiting the ability of people to responsibly rent their homes based on their zoning. The income we receive from guests not only goes to our mortgage, allowing us the ability to live in the city close to the hospitals we work at. It pays taxes to the city. It pays cleaners above minimum wage, and it allows tourists to come from out of town to spend money at restaurants and stores, as well as visits families for graduations and funerals. I believe there are ways that hosts can continue doing business responsibly without disrupting surrounding neighborhoods and without compromising data. I urge you to carefully consider the effects and limitations and the restrictions being proposed and seek for you to work with responsible hosts looking for successful outcomes for both the city and the hosts. As nurses who directly care for countless COVID patients, as well as critically injured gunshot victims at a time when gun violence is at an all-time high, please realize that the implications of your restrictions could cause us, as well as many other essential workers and upstanding citizens who supplement their income through hosting short-term rentals, to have to relocate and leave neighborhoods that Philly needs us in. We thank you for your consideration. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Chris Carlone, commenting on 210081.
Good morning, Councilman and Councilwoman. My name is Chris Carlone. I operate a housekeeping business in the city of Philadelphia. I'm here in opposition of Bill 210081 on behalf of the short-term rental ecosystem. While hosts, specifically problem hosts, are the target of this bill, we're failing to acknowledge the collateral damage that all of the folks behind the scenes that make hosting possible would encounter. When a guest stays in a property locally, my team of housekeepers clean it before and after a stay. The neighborhood handyman buys tools at the local hardware store to make the repairs. The laundromat down the street cleans the linens. Local trash removal contractors handle excess trash. Local baristas serve guest coffee. The list goes on and on. Without providing us, your local experts, the opportunity to share our insight into this bill, a blanket ruling such as this would negatively impact working families across the city. My staff, for example, consists of 90% single mothers. These staff members earn on average $22 per hour as a housekeeper on a W-2. We pay our business taxes to the city. We pay our employment taxes. We provide labor contracts to each staff member as required by the city. We do our part to uphold the community so that we can feed our families with the earnings our hard work produces. This bill would decimate many roles for hardworking families that I have mentioned here before you. Collectively, the constituents before you have served millions of guests, and we're experts at what we do. From vetting guests to preventing parties to self-policing community standards, we're here to say we want to help the city get rid of its bad actors while working together to save thousands of jobs. We're here at your disposal to share knowledge and methodologies that have worked well in other cities, and we're preparing self-policing actions and community-based activities to promote responsible hosting. I ask that the council simply pauses before proceeding and ask themselves if they benefit from speaking with local experts to understand how we can all better work together to protect our city and continue to responsibly host guests and their families. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Robert Nunez, commenting on 210081.
Yes, hello. My name is Robert Nunez. Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, no problem. Pardon. Thank you, City Council. My name is Robert Nunez, and I'm in opposition of Bill 20081. As an owner-operator here in the city of Philadelphia, I was on call the last time that this call took place and listening today. And one of the things I think that's being missed is we as the residents of Philadelphia, the homeowners and the taxpayers and the voters, we also have regular rentals that we provide to the working individuals or to families in the city. But when we encounter problems with these individuals, with these tenants, they may have their birthday parties, their events, their problems at home, whatever the case is. These situations can go on for years at a time with one tenant or one property. Whereas being a short-term rental operator, we can actually remedy the situation instantly by removing a bad actor in our property at that moment. That can happen with a regular tenant. And sometimes, as the gentleman a couple of slots earlier was saying about being in support of the bill and ending short-term renting in some of the neighborhoods, that's not actually correct, because many neighborhoods are improving because of the different diversity and magnitude of different types of people that are coming through the communities, supporting the local businesses, supporting the businesses and the operators who are hiring people that are from the communities. It's a ripple effect. As the gentleman right before me said, it's an ecosystem. Short-term renting is not a fad. It's not something that's just passing by. It's a way of life. Individuals find themselves displaced because of emergencies, and they wind up relocating to a short-term rental situation until they get back on their feet and they get their family lives back together again. People relocating for work, people selling a property and waiting for the next property to buy to move in with their families, individuals coming to visit the city, people coming to work in the city. It's not a tourism party vibe mentality. It's unfair to couple short-term renting with a student rental dorm mentality of how college kids have parties and events. That is not happening in the majority of the cases. We understand that there are minimal cases, but we want to support short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Ana Lopez, commenting on 210081.
Good morning.
She is not on the.
Not on.
Sorry, President. She's not on the line. The next person on the line is Dorman.
Go ahead. Call the next person.
Sam Oropeza.
He's also not on the line.
Yeah.
David Dorman.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dave Dorman. I'm calling in reference to bill number 210434. a former resident of Philadelphia. I lived there until 1972. My father gave his life in the line of service as an officer in Philadelphia. I'm calling in reference to health benefits and the obvious benefits of this bill. I'm an RN now, and I just give you a little overview. It would increase the health of the officers doing the training, improve cardiovascular health, improve conditioning, balance, agility, would increase strength and confidence in the officers. The health benefits go on and on, including decrease of heart disease, stroke, and other diseases like diabetes, lower cholesterol. You're saving a ton in healthcare costs, and that benefits almost immediately. If you want to take the streets of Philadelphia back, you have to take the cuffs off of the officers and let them do what they're trained to do. I appreciate your time on this, and I expect that this bill would improve community relations and decrease the levels and incidences of lethal force that are needed. I thank you very much. Appreciate your consideration on this.
The next speaker is Sharon Krez.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
She is not on the line, nor is Jennifer. So the next one is Strauss.
The next speaker is Chris Strauss.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Hello, my name is Christopher Strauss. To confirm, I did not, this is just a random call, so I wasn't expecting to speak, but I think that this bill is very important to get passed. We should be equipping the Philadelphia Police Force with as many tools as possible so they can come into situations without having to necessarily use legal force, but have the tools equipped to help them solve situations that they need to use force, right? Not everything calls for a gun, but having the ability to utilize jujitsu or specialize in some of the martial arts could really help some situations out. Like the gentleman said before, we absolutely have to uncuff our police officers, let them start cleaning up our streets of Philadelphia because they are slowly becoming very dangerous. And yeah, that's really my testimony. You guys should definitely pass this. It's kind of common sense.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Next speaker is Matthew Devine.
Good morning. I'll state your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Council President, the next two are also not on the line, so the next one would be Rachel.
Rachel Gallegos.
Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Gallegos. I'm a senior staff attorney at Community Legal Services. I work in the Homeownership and Consumer Rights Unit at CLS. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment in support of Resolution 210513, urging the Pennsylvania General Assembly to appropriate the full $350 million from the Federal Homeowner Assistance Fund as soon as possible without imposing additional restrictions. On behalf of its low-income homeowner clients, CLS is grateful for Council's leadership in fighting to ensure that Philadelphia remains a city of homeowners. We are especially grateful for Councilmember Parker's stalwart leadership on this issue and thank her for authoring this resolution. Over 70,000 homeowners across Pennsylvania are now seriously delinquent on their mortgages because of the pandemic, including tens of thousands here in Philadelphia. Fortunately, help is on the way. The American Rescue Plan passed by Congress in March includes $350 million in funding for Pennsylvania to help low and moderate income homeowners who have been affected by the pandemic. This money will truly be a lifesaver for homeowners who have lost jobs, tapped savings, and borrowed money from family and friends in order to avoid foreclosure. But now Harrisburg needs to take two important steps. First, The General Assembly must pass an appropriations bill sending the money to PHFA to administer the program. Second, state policymakers need to draft and submit a plan on how to spend the money. This must be done by the end of this month. What exactly will this money mean for homeowners? It will mean that restaurant servers who lost hours, fell behind on their mortgages, but are now back to work can get help paying off back mortgage arrears and save their homes. It will mean that the senior with a reverse mortgage who helped her grandchildren during the pandemic, but is now facing a foreclosure of her own because she wasn't able to keep up with the taxes and insurance, will get help to repay those debts and save her home. It will mean the family who has had to cut back on work when their child care provider closed, only to rack up hundreds of dollars in unpaid water, gas, and electric bills, will get help coming current on their utilities. And it will mean that homeowners, especially homeowners of color, who have been nearly twice as likely as white homeowners to become unemployed during the pandemic, will be able to save their homes. In short, it will mean that thousands of homeowners, not just in Philadelphia, but across Pennsylvania, who suffered economic hardship through no fault of their own, will receive assistance. But homeowners will not be able to access the Homeowner Assistance Fund until the General Assembly acts. Once again, Community Legal Services, on behalf of its low-income homeowners, thanks Councilmember Parker for introducing this resolution and urges that the resolution be adopted because although help is on the way, Philadelphia homeowners are running out of time and swift state action is desperately needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Adam Goldman.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Council President and Council members. My name is Adam Goldman. I'm a housing counselor at the Philadelphia Unemployment Project. I'm here to speak in support of Resolution 210513, calling on the PA General Assembly to appropriate the full $350 million from the Federal Homeowner Assistance Fund as soon as possible. I'd like to thank you for allowing me this time to speak, and I would particularly like to thank Councilwoman Parker for her leadership on this issue and for fighting to protect struggling homeowners in Philadelphia. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, tens of thousands of homeowners across the state have fallen behind on their mortgages. According to an April 2021 Black Knight report, even as national mortgage delinquency rates have begun to lower in recent months, there are still 4 times as many mortgages that are 90 days or more past due as there were prior to the pandemic. While things are slowly improving for homeowners, we're far from out of the woods. But now we have a lifeline coming in the form of $350 million slated for Pennsylvania through the Homeowner Assistance Fund, which is part of the American Rescue Plan. The fund is intended to help homeowners avoid foreclosure by paying their delinquent mortgages, real estate taxes, utilities, and other related expenses. It's going to take time for this program to get up and running. The state has to submit a plan to the U.S. Treasury, and Treasury has to approve the plan. And as we all know, programs like this take time to set up before they can begin taking applications. This is why we can't afford any unnecessary delays. Part of the process in our state is that the General Assembly has to appropriate the funds, and the PA General Assembly goes home for the summer at the end of June. This is why we are urging them to appropriate the funds by June 30th without additional restrictions so that the state can start getting money out to struggling homeowners as soon as possible. This past year has been extremely difficult, and even as many homeowners entered into forbearance agreements with their mortgage companies, they saw their delinquencies grow higher and higher each month while the pandemic ground the economy to a halt. Now these homeowners need a lifeline, and they need it without delay. So thank you, Councilwoman Parker, for introducing this resolution, and thank you to the rest of City Council for lending your support to homeowners across the city and state.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Margot Shaw.
Good morning. State your name for the record.
Hi.
Please
Hi, yes,
proceed.
this is Margot Shaw. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. Hi, yes, I'm speaking today as a member of Power Interfaith and as a former school district teacher in support of the Fair Funding Resolution. Many histories try to tell us that 1954 was the year that schools were funded equally, but any way you look at Pennsylvania's schools shows that racial inequality persists. So why is this? First reason is there's not enough state funding. Pennsylvania only contributes about 35%, which is less than almost any state, and leaves local districts to pick up the slack. This includes us in Philly. Not only is there not enough funding, but the funding is racially biased. Districts with more white students receive more than their fair share of funding. Districts with more black and brown students receive less. Racial disparity in funding exists even when poverty is taken into account. And even more enraging, a fair funding formula has been created. About 6 years ago, the Funding Commission in Harrisburg made a budget that took into account the number of students, wealth and local taxing capacity, multilingualism, and population sparsity. And this would eliminate racial disparities, but 90% of the funding does not go through this formula. So what does this mean for students in our district? Philadelphia is hugely shortchanged. We would get $400 million this year if money was fairly distributed. Over $2 billion in the past 6 years since the funding formula was passed. Resources matter, and adequate funding boosts students' performance. We know that Lower Merion schools right across City Line are funded almost twice as much as Philadelphia's. Teaching in our schools, it was clear that we did not have the resources students should have. A part-time nurse when students in my class had full-time diabetes, inheriting a classroom library with empty shelves, class sizes that always pushed the limit. Instead, counselors in nurses, music and arts and technology, smaller class sizes, healthy school buildings, this is what we expect. We call on City Council today to use your voice in demanding the young people in Philly receive fair education funding. Thank you to the council members who introduced the resolution and to all for your time and consideration.
Thank you for the testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Reverend McKinley Sims.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Reverend McKinley Sims. I'm also a former teacher and basketball coach, though I serve the Church of the Restoration in Mount Airy right now. And I'm rising in support of 210516, calling on the General Assembly to provide the full fair funding to all K through 12 schools in Pennsylvania. In my classroom when I was a teacher, I had a saying that fair ain't equal. And when we call on the General Assembly to provide fair funding, that means it may not be equal. And that means that white folks like me may see less dollars going to their schools. And that might feel like discrimination, but y'all, that is in fact equity in action. There's been a lot of buzzword around equity this past year in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Equity means everyone gets what they need to thrive, and those who have enough don't get no more. Sometimes love in my business looks like sacrifice, and sometimes love looks like not getting exactly what you want, but love always looks like justice. Friends, this is our chance, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do the right thing, the moral thing. So as a former basketball coach, I am urging the City Council to use your voice, put the ball in Harrisburg's court, and don't let up on a John Chaney-like press. History has its eyes on us, so let us demand the right thing be done, and let's do the right thing for our kids. Just as fair doesn't mean equal, we also have a saying, y'all means all. So when I say y'all, I'm talking about all of us and for all of our kids. History has its eyes on us. Let's do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Sharon Perry Thomas.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony. Good morning. Are you connected?
Oh, yes, I am connected. I'm Sharon Perry Thomas, and I am the co-founder of the WURD Alliance for Cannabis Population.
We're having trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry, are you able to hear me now?
Much better, much better.
Okay,
Please.
perfect. Yes, I am Sharon Perry Thomas, and I am the co-founder of DACO, the Diasporic Alliance for Cannabis Opportunities. And we've hosted a cannabis conference at Temple University for Black and Brown communities, exposing them to the opportunities in cannabis since 2018. As the social equity advocate for All Together Now, PA, we're working to create a local supply chain and ownership throughout the state of Pennsylvania, especially in cannabis. I'm for Bill 210206, sponsored by Council Member Derek Green. This legislation will give the voters of Philadelphia a voice to call on the governor and the Pennsylvania General Assembly to decriminalize, to regulate, and to tax the sales of cannabis to adults over the age of 21, just like our neighboring Mid-Atlantic states. As an MBA candidate in the Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Minoring in Cannabis program at the University of the Sciences, we often analyze the growth of the industry as this business expands rapidly across the state. Between April 2020 and March 2021, medical cannabis brought in $909.4 million with the state's medical program. We have one of the best in the country, and that definitely should be guarded. Nationally, adult use segment dominates the cannabis market, bringing in over 60% revenue shares from adult use cannabis. What would this revenue increase look like for our city, for our state? Maine just reached nearly $5.4 million last month, just in 1 month, the month of May. This is a real opportunity for our communities to benefit from the taxation created by a regulated market. I ask city council members to look at the surrounding states like Virginia, New York, and New Jersey, and I urge them to have Harrisburg create and pass equitable policy. I'm Sharon Perry Thomas, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Tawheed Chappelle, commenting on 210206 and 210215.
Morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, council members. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Tawheed Chappelle, he, him pronouns. I'm testifying in support for Bill 210206, sponsored by Councilmember Derek Green. For the past decade, I've been using marijuana as a patient to help with my autoimmune deficiency disorder called ulcerative colitis. Beyond being a medical marijuana patient, I'm also a Philadelphia cannabis journalist who's reported on ongoing injustices and inequities within the multi-billion-dollar cannabis industry. My recent op-ed published in the Philadelphia Inquirer on 4/20 laid a case for our city and the state to consider legalization. I've also worked at a local medical marijuana dispensary in Philly and have served hundreds of medical marijuana patients who have suffered from various illnesses and used the plant to find relief. Given all of this, I am here to explain my support for this bill as one of the many organizers that's part of the new Philadelphia Cannabis Business Association, PCBA, an association that is organizing to reverse the stigma of marijuana through education, advocate for truth on the plant using information that is grounded in scientific facts and history, and repair the harm of the failed war on drugs has inflicted on black and brown communities in the city. Bill 210206 is common sense. I believe it allows Philadelphians to engage in the best form of democracy and deliberation, using their constitutional right to vote to show whether they truly want Harrisburg to legalize, tax, and regulate cannabis for adults 21 and older. To inhibit Philadelphians from even weighing in on this important issue reminds me of voter disenfranchisement, something that we're seeing across the country right now, and something that I think our city prides itself from actively fighting against. I'll wrap up my support for Bill 210206 with a few facts for consideration. It's a fact that across Pennsylvania, nearly 60% of adults support the complete legalization of marijuana, according to a Muhlenberg College this year. However, we don't have any specific data for Philly, but we should. This year, Leafly, one of the most reputable cannabis news outlets in the country, said that a fully legal Pennsylvania market could see $2.3 to $3.3 billion in revenue within 3 to 5 years, which translates to roughly $500 million in annual tax revenue and would support between 33,000 and 47,000 legal cannabis jobs. If that legal cannabis market existed today, Pennsylvania would be America's third largest cannabis industry, behind only California and Colorado. The question is, where does Philadelphia stand and where will Philly be when legalization happens? Let Philadelphians decide if we want and are ready for legalization. National and state data shows which way the wind is blowing. Let the city make a statement and make it clear for all to see where we stand in November. Please support and pass Bill 210206. PCBA is here to help change the narrative on cannabis. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it.
The next speaker is Tayyib Smith, commenting on 210206 and 2102.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed.
Good morning. My name is Tayyib Smith. I'm a Philadelphia resident, third generation. I'm also a partner and the collective Smith & Roller and Little Giant Creative. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of All Together Now PA, where I serve as a founding advisory board member to my friend and colleague, Judy Wicks. I'm going to be brief, and a couple things I think everyone should be aware of. Nationally, it's estimated that the cannabis legal sales was $7.5 billion. That's a rise from $12.1 billion last year. I'm sorry, in 2019. In Pennsylvania, black and brown cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are where African-American entrepreneurs have the least amount of market share. We are in a transformative time in history where the cannabis market is actually one of the few spaces where people have the ability to create wealth. Also, I will say, since the 1990s, the lion's share of people who have been locked up, incarcerated, and suffered from illogical laws having to do with cannabis have been African American. So I implore a predominantly POC council to move forward and decriminalize this, because it has the potentiality to affect us in a positive perspective as entrepreneurs if we hold Harrisburg accountable and make these policies actually equitable. But it is absolutely absurd to continually penalize particularly African Americans for something that is widely accepted throughout culture. We make songs about it, we make funny movies about it, we laugh when white children get smoke weed in a place like Lower Merion, and they probably get a ride home. But in Philadelphia, through laws like Stop and Search, African Americans are penalized and then monetized for something that we should no longer hold to. I thank you for your time. I thank you, Council Member Derek Green, for bringing this to our attention. And I implore you to move forward in a progressive way that's beneficial to the citizens of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Bill Cobb, commenting on 210206 and 210215.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Bill Cobb, peace and love. I'm calling to support bill number 210206, introduced March 11th by Councilmember Derek Green. As a lifelong resident of 51 years in the city of Philadelphia, a former member of the City of Philadelphia Special Committee on Criminal Justice Reform, and then my last position as a National Deputy Director at the American Civil Liberties Union, where I ran the largest campaign to reduce our nation's jails and prison populations in half while combating racial disparities in the criminal justice system. I implore us to give the voters in the city of Philadelphia an opportunity to express their political will and send that message to the governor and to the state legislature so that we don't have to speak about the anecdotal evidence that we have of wanting legalization here in the city of Philadelphia and the state of Pennsylvania, but so that the voters of Philadelphia will be able to demonstrate their political will and our desire to transform our city, our quality of life, increase public safety, and stop hunting, capturing, killing people for their love and their relationship with a plant. As a disabled veteran who is now a cannabis user as the medical side, I would greatly appreciate other individuals who don't have the money to engage in the medical program and who don't have medical disabilities that have been designated by doctors to have the opportunity to engage in recreational usage and the opportunity for us to go to the polls in November and demonstrate that, I think will powerfully transform our inability to take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get ahead of so many states, legalize it on the medicinal side, legalize it on the recreational side, and also contribute positively to stopping the hunting, capture, and killing of black and brown people in marginalized neighborhoods and communities that have been most eviscerated by the brutal assaults and attack of the war on drugs in our communities and neighborhoods. So once again, I'm in support of the legislation. I ask you all to do so as well.
Thank you. Testimony, we appreciate it.
Judy Wicks, commenting on 210206 and 210215.
Good morning. State
Good
your name.
morning.
Please proceed.
Good morning. My name is Judy Wicks. I live in Philadelphia in the 8th Ward. I am speaking in favor of Bill 210206. I am a retired entrepreneur and the founder of All Together Now Pennsylvania, a nonprofit with a mission to relocalize supply chains producing our basic needs, including food, clothing, building materials, and plant medicines. Our work includes the Profits for Pennsylvanians Project, PPPP, which advocates state legislation for legalizing adult use cannabis that is regulated and taxed to benefit black and brown communities damaged by the failed war on drugs, as well as to benefit our small rural farmers. Currently, the medical marijuana industry in our state is almost exclusively owned by an oligarchy of distant corporations, which means that last year, nearly $910 million in medical marijuana sales went from the pockets of Pennsylvania consumers to multi-state corporations headquarters in such places as Florida and Chicago. We cannot allow this to happen with the regulation of non-medical adult use cannabis. Too much is at stake. The referendum to put the question of decriminalization, regulation, and taxation on the November ballot is important because Philadelphia citizens will become aware of the issue, engage in conversation, and begin to make our voices heard on this important issue. And we must continue to organize and speak out to the state legislature that this new industry must benefit Philadelphia citizens and not the outside multi-state corporations that currently control the medical marijuana market. I view cannabis prohibition as yet another form of white supremacy used to repress, punish, and hold back our citizens because of the color of their skin. This must stop, and in its place, legislation be designed to lift up these same communities by directing economic opportunity in this new industry to the people who have suffered unjustly from prohibition. After the legalization of adult use, cannabis sales in Pennsylvania are estimated to be $2 to $3 billion a year. Let's organize Philadelphians to demand equitable legislation. Placing a referendum on the November ballot is a great first step to start that citywide conversation and make our voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Dozie Mbonu, commenting on 210206 and 210215.
Good morning. I'll state your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Council President, they are not on the line.
Ron Millward, commenting on 210206 and 210215.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you, Council. I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I am Ron Millward, the founder of Balanced Veterans. We are a nonprofit educating, advocating, and empowering veterans on the use of alternative therapies for their health and transition from service. I myself am a disabled combat veteran, 100%. I live in Roxborough, Pennsylvania, and cannabis has completely changed my life. It has allowed me, excuse me, I'm getting a bit emotional, excuse me. I just came from an emergency dental appointment, and without cannabis, I would have not been able to get there to deal with my PTSD and my anxiety, and then to be able to have this phone call.
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
To really just be a tool of control, and we need to have full access. We are not able to access this. The cost and affordability is not there. Why can we not be able to have license for, you know, maybe a disabled veteran to get into the program, to be able to have an opportunity to also, you know, make a life for themselves? I believe that the decriminalization is at the forefront of what must happen right now for cannabis, and I believe that the legislation should be on the next ballot. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Diana Williams, commenting on 210515.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Deanna Williams. I am calling regarding Resolution 21051. Greetings, President Clark, distinguished members of City Council, and much respect to Councilwoman at Large, Catherine Gilmore Richardson. She has presented to Council 210515 in consideration to acknowledge Philadelphia June Black Music Month. 42 years ago, June 7, 1979, President Jimmy Carter, at the encouragement of the Black Music Association, hosted a celebratory event on the South Lawn of the White House with performances by Billy Eckstine, Chuck Berry, Evelyn Champagne King, Andre Crouch, Sarah Jordan Powell, Philly's own MFSB conducted by Dexter Wanzel. That day, the president declared June as Black Music Month, a period of time where we could reflect on the enormous contributions of Black creatives, of America's indigenous musical art forms, and this multi-billion-dollar industry. In fact, President Biden just released a proclamation stating June is Black Music Month and suggested that all of our citizens celebrate it as one of our greatest exports around planet Earth. As co-founder of Black Music Month with Ed Wright and notable Philadelphian Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, inductee, and multiple Grammy winner Kenny Gamble, we wish to celebrate Philadelphia's illustrious legacy, past and present, as a music mecca since our country's very founding. The Sound of Philadelphia is a well-received entity that has been appreciated by many music lovers. We are encouraging City Council to recognize the music community, the Recording Academy, known to many as the organization that produces the Grammy Awards, with our new president, Don T. We want to applaud all of those mentioned in this resolution and all others whose names were not included, but we ask that City Council celebrate and join Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson's resolution to have Philadelphia annually recognize June as Black Music Month. Thank you so much, President Clark. Thank you, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, for your leadership in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Don T. Morelli, commenting on 210515.
I am Don T. Good morning. Good morning, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, President Clark, and highly regarded council members. What an honor to speak with you today. As the newly elected president for the Recording Academy Philadelphia chapter, known as the Grammys, I represent music creators and music professionals in the Philadelphia community. I represent all music creators in my chapter, and I represent the culture, Black music, my own and my family's grand contributions to Black music history. My late father is the legendary Philly singer Lee Andrews. My brother is legendary drummer Questa Love of The Roots, both of whom are Philly Walk of Fame, Avenue of the Arts inductees. I come to my present leadership position within the Recording Academy as a songwriter, vocalist, touring performer, producer, label owner, author, and entrepreneur. I run my own recording studio. Creativity is what informs my world. As president of the chapter, it is my duty to not only see that the rights of music makers be protected, but more, to see that music creators be celebrated, to see that the most innovative of these be illuminated and elevated. And it is for this reason I give my full and entire support to the resolution 210515 before you, and ask you, esteemed members of council, for your consideration in recognizing June as African American Music Appreciation Month, or as we all know it, Black Music Month. I am honored to have been extended the invitation to speak today alongside past president, current governor of my Philly board, and Black Music Month founder, Deanna Williams. Thank you all for your time and attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Lauren Talese, commenting on 210515.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Council President, they are not on the line.
Thank you. Next.
Helen Broomer, commenting on 210515.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Proceed with your testimony.
Helen Broomer. The next speaker is Carol Riddick, commenting on 210515.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good day, everyone. My name is Carol Riddick, and I am in support, full support, of Resolution 210515. I am a vocalist, a songwriter, an educator, a Renaissance woman, and a staunch advocate for the arts and artists. I want to begin by thanking Councilwoman at-large Catherine Gilmore Richardson for presenting this resolution to recognize June as Black Music Month. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is rich with long-standing contributions from African American culture, and I feel that recognition from the city in which the concept of Black Music Month was born is the perfect catalyst for support, for acknowledgement of our culture, its contributions, both artistic and economically, and to the encouragement to educate about the diversity in Black music from which our city, our country, the world has and continues to benefit. I'd also like to recognize and thank President Darrell Clark. I ask that you strongly consider and do support. Why not take pride as the birthplace of what is Black Music Month? I'd just like to say happy Black Music Month to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Appreciate it.
There are
Council President, we have Broomer on the line.
Okay. The names?
Helen Broomer.
Yes, this is Helen Bruner speaking, and I'd like to say thank you so much for honoring the rich culture of African American music and what we have contributed as a people here in America with soul, R&B, hip hop, jazz, gospel, house, bebop. It is wonderful to be recognized by our city of Philadelphia, brotherly love and sisterly affection, and we are happy to be here, even though it's virtual and on the phone. But I'd like to thank our city so much for honoring, and I'm born and raised here. My grandmother's born and raised here. My grandfather's born and raised here, and they all were amazing musicians. And thank you to Deanna Williams, Mr. Gamble, and also Chaka Fattah. Thank you so much, and I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We really appreciate it. Okay.
I believe there are no other speakers, Mr. President.
No more? Okay. Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment session, and we're now going to proceed with our calendar. We're now going to consider today's resolution consent agenda. So I will ask the clerk to read the titles of all the resolutions on the consent agenda, and after each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the resolution consent agenda.
Council President, may I be recognized?
My fault. Councilman Heenan?
Thank you, Council President. I respectfully ask that Bill number 210204 be added to the final passage calendar for today, please.
Okay. Mr. Decker?
Not necessarily consent.
You say bill? We only have a...
It's a bill, Mr. President. I'll add it to the to the regular final passage calendar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilwoman, did you want to be recognized?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to be recognized quickly on a resolution that is on the consent agenda for today. I wanted to personally acknowledge and thank Folasade, we know her as Sade, for her service on the board of trustees for the Free Library of Philadelphia. And again, we know her as our former colleague and our trusted partner in council while she was working under your leadership, Mr. President, as our CFO, but she was also a professor and mentor to our former CFO, Matt Stitt. And she was really an invaluable cog in the wheel relative to the machinations of our city council and city government. And with all of her robust financial experience across agencies, not only here in the city of Philadelphia, but during her time in Birmingham, Alabama, Councilmember Green, National League of Cities, she has truly become a value partner and a real value add to the board. And right now we know Sade as our government relations partner at American Airlines, but she's also served on the library's board and has co-led their efforts around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we know that that will be a real integral part of ensuring that the Free Library of Philadelphia continues to center the voices of its employees and all the patrons at the library. But yet with all of this experience, Mr. President, her most important and valued role is mother to Yemi. So Mr. President, as a former teen leadership assistant in the LEAP program at Winfield Library 20 years ago this year, and as a fellow working mom, it truly brought me great joy to introduce this resolution on behalf of Sade with her elevation to board president. And I just wanted to make those remarks prior to the resolution being voted on during the consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Awesome lady. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion to adopt each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of Mr. President. The clerk has to read the title for us.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you stopped mid-script, Mr. President. If we could take that from the top, that would be good.
Yeah, I'm really having a moment today. Let's start over again. I'll ask the clerk to read the titles of all the resolutions on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the resolution on the resolution consent agenda. Upon such an objection, without debate, the resolution will be immediately removed from the resolution consent agenda. That will now read the titles of the resolution on the resolution consent agenda.
Resolution number 210257, entitled a resolution recognizing and congratulating Folasade A. Alanapagan Lewis on her election as chair of the Board of Trustees for the Free Library of Philadelphia. And resolution number 210512, entitled a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the model city's urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 1221 through 1225 North 4th Street. And resolution number 210513, entitled a resolution urging the Pennsylvania General Assembly to appropriate the full $350 million from the Federal Homeowner Assistance Fund as soon as possible without imposing additional restrictions. And resolution number 210515, entitled a resolution recognizing June as African American Music Appreciation Month to celebrate the African American musical influences that comprise an essential part of our nation's treasured cultural heritage. And resolution number 210519, entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 7th Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties. And resolution number 210520, entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 7th Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties. And resolution number 210521, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2216 North 3rd Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 210522, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1905 North Phillip Street and 1909 North Lawrence Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And resolution number 210526, entitled a resolution honoring the business owners of color receiving Comcast Rise Investment Fund grants and in-kind support, and recognizing that businesses owned by people of color are key to equitable growth and recovery in Philadelphia. And resolution number 210528, entitled a resolution recognizing the month of May as Celiac Disease Awareness Month in Philadelphia, and honoring 8-year-old Philadelphian Jax Barry for shining a national light on ABC's World News Tonight, with David Muir on the need for increased federal funding for celiac research and federally mandated labeling of gluten on all packaged foods. And resolution number 210529, entitled a resolution honoring and congratulating the Carver Engineering and Science High School boys bowling team on their successful 2020-2021 season and first ever championship win. And resolution number 210530, entitled a resolution honoring and recognizing Teresa Alethea on the occasion of her retirement following 25 years of loyal and dedicated service to the residents of this 175th Legislative District. And resolution number 210531, entitled a resolution also naming Bainbridge Street between 8th and 9th Streets as Henry L. Phillips Way. And resolution number 210532, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1740 Howard Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District. And resolution number 210533, entitled a resolution commemorating June 19, 2021 as Korean American Citizenship Day to celebrate the first naturalization of a Korean American in 1890. And resolution number, all under certain terms and conditions.
Good?
Yes, Mr. President, that completes the resolutions.
Thank you. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion to adopt each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably second that each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Aye. Ayes have it. And each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda has been adopted. We will now consider today's bill consent agenda. I will ask the clerk to please read the titles of all the bills on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the bill on the consent agenda. Upon such an objection, without debate, the bill will be immediately removed from the consent agenda and placed on our regular final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, will you now read the titles of the bills on the consent agenda?
Bill number 200713, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Lehigh Avenue, Frankfurt Avenue, Master Street, and 6th Street. Bill number 210362, entitled an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning by amending certain provisions of Section 14502, entitled CTR Center City Overlay District. Bill number 210425, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 14500 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by revising certain provisions of Section 14514, entitled FNE Far Northeast Overlay District. And Bill number 210328, entitled an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the General Fund, the Grants Revenue Fund, and the Community Development Fund, certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, to the General Fund and the Community Development Fund, certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. Bill number 200627, entitled an ordinance authorizing ARD 1105 Walnut LLC or a subsequent owner to install, own, and maintain various encroachments at 1101 through 07 Walnut Street. And bill number 210333, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Greenwood Street and 2nd Street, Reed Street and South 4th Street, Moyamensing Avenue, and Wharton Street. And bill number 210334, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Morris Street and South 2nd Street. And bill number 210390, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Dauphin Street and Belgrade Street, Almond Street and Dauphin Street, York Street and Almond Street, Taggart Street and Norris Street, Cedar Street and Norris Street, Marlborough Street and Thompson Street. And bill number 210391, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Ellsworth Street and South 9th Street, Reed Street and South Broad Street, Mountain Street and South 6th Street, Latona Street and South 7th Street. Bill number 210392, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Moore Street and South 6th Street, McClellan Street and South 5th Street, Mifflin Street to South 6th Street, South 3rd Street to McKean Street. Bill number 210393, entitled an ordinance amending section 12701 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled designation of bicycle lanes, to authorize bicycle lanes on Ray Street from North 5th Street to North 4th Street, and making associated changes to parking regulations within the same limits. And bill number 210394, entitled an ordinance authorizing encroachments in the nature of the sidewalk cafe in the vicinity of 941 South 8th Street. And bill number 210412, entitled an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of the 6400 block of Somerdale Avenue. And bill number 210413, entitled an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of Lober Avenue between East Upsall Street and East Horter Street. And bill number 210414, entitled an ordinance establishing a no parking regulation on North 3rd Street, both sides between West Erie Avenue and West Sedgley Avenue. And bill number 210415, entitled an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on West 65th Avenue, both sides between North Front Street and North 2nd Street. And bill number 210416, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of North 12th Street and Champler Street, 69th Avenue and North 12th Street, Camac Street and Champlist Avenue, Park Avenue and Nedrow Avenue, North 13th Street and Olney Avenue. And bill number 210422, entitled an ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on certain portions of Paul Street, Meadow Street, Lackawanna Street, Worth Street, Pear Street, Gillingham Street, Josephine Street, Blair Street, and East Montgomery Avenue, and making associated changes to parking regulations within the same limits. And bill number 210447, entitled an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of Chester Avenue from 66th Street to 67th Street. And bill number 210448, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations on both sides of Webster Street between 20th Street and 21st Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Decker. These bills haven't been read on 2 different days. The question for each bill now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker call the roll, and upon being called, each council member shall vote aye on each of the bills, nay on each of the bills, or indicate those bills for which the member is voting aye, or those bills for which the member is voting nay. Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Dom.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Green.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Jones.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman O.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye on all bills.
Council President Clark.
Aye on all bills. The majority of all members having voted in affirmative for each of the bills on the consent agenda are passed. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-215.
A resolution submitting to the electors of the city an amendment to Article 8, Chapter 5 of the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, entitled Referenda Approved by the Voters, by adding a new section providing that the citizens of Philadelphia call upon the Pennsylvania General Assembly and the governor to pass legislation that will decriminalize, regulate, and tax the use and sale to adults aged 21 years or older of cannabis for non-medical purposes.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Green for a motion.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution and the companion bill, number 210206, provides an opportunity for the citizens of the City of Philadelphia to weigh in on this issue. Some years ago, the General Assembly moved forward with medical cannabis legislation that provided medical cannabis to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and more specifically here for the citizens of the City of Philadelphia. From my perspective, I think it provides an opportunity, and the citizens of our city need an opportunity to weigh in on this issue. I want to thank all the speakers that talked about this issue in the public comment session. As you heard from them, it was a wide range of speakers, from those dealing with issues of post-traumatic stress disorder, for those who are really encouraging and want to see more entrepreneurs of color, especially in the African American community, to be able to benefit from this type of industry, as well as my own experience of talking with a number of individuals, both in the autism community and other communities who've had disabilities, that benefit from this type of legislation. Considering that other states around Pennsylvania, like Virginia, New Jersey, and New York, have already moved into the space of adult use legislation, I think it's incumbent upon us as a city to give this opportunity to the voters of the City of Philadelphia to weigh in on this perspective. And then as the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania starts to look at this legislation in more detail, we'll be able to add our voice to this conversation. I've spoken previously with State Senator Sharif Street, as well as Representatives Jordan Harris and Representatives Derisha Parker, who due to their schedules were not able to call into the public comment session of our council session. And I believe this provides an opportunity for our citizens to voice their perspective on this legislation and on this industry, which is also providing resources and benefits to cities and states all around this nation. With that, Council President, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Point of information.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones for point of information.
My good friend and colleague, Member Green, for the record, this does not, a aye vote on this does not mean a affirmative vote on marijuana. It just gives an opportunity for a forum for there to be further discussion about the issue, correct?
That is correct, Councilmember Jones. I think when the medical cannabis legislation came through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, citizens in the City of Philadelphia really didn't have an opportunity to have this conversation. If this legislation is able to be voted and passed by this body and then go on the ballot in November, it will really allow us as citizens and constituents and colleagues in this legislative body, and just for the citizens of the City of Philadelphia, to have a more robust conversation and education about this area, and also allow us to voice our opinion to the members of the General Assembly, especially those that represent the City of Philadelphia.
Thank you, Member Green, because the double and the information are in the details. Thank you so much, Member.
Thank you, Councilman. There was a motion.
And second.
Yes. Chair recognizes, who's that?
Councilman. No, Mr. President, I just seconded. I just let you know that I had seconded the motion. Yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Been moved and properly seconded. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Could we get a roll call, Mr. President? Could we get a roll call?
Want a roll call?
It's a charter amendment, so it requires a 2/3 vote.
Okay,
so you need to prove for the record.
I'm sorry. Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks?
Aye.
Councilman Dom?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim,
Aye.
Councilman Heenan,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman O,
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker,
Aye.
Councilwoman Kimberly Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilman Squilla,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Two-thirds of all members of council have been voted in affirmative. Resolution 210-215 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-518.
A resolution urging the Pennsylvania General Assembly to adopt Senate Bill 670 and House Bill 696, which will provide $30 million in funding for community-based violence interventions.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion on the resolution.
Hey, thank you, Council President. Before I call for the adoption of the resolution, I just want to acknowledge the hard work of State Senator Arthur Hayward and State Representative Donna Bullock, particularly around the issue of bringing resources back to the city of Philadelphia in the form of violence prevention grants. And so we know this has to be an intergovernmental approach. And so I thank the two of them for stepping up to the plate and most importantly, fighting during their upcoming budget as they have a total of $10 billion surplus that they're going to have to address. $3 billion coming from the federal government with additional $7 and additional revenue for surplus. And so I want to support all my colleagues on the state level to fight vigorously to make sure they bring back additional resources to address the issue of gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. With that being said, Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. There's been moved and second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210-206.
An ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the city of Philadelphia of an amendment to Article 8, Chapter 5 of the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter entitled Referenda approved by the voters, by adding a new section providing that the citizens of Philadelphia call upon the Pennsylvania General Assembly and the governor to pass legislation that will decriminalize, regulate, and tax the use and sale to adults aged 21 years or older of cannabis for non-medical purposes.
Thank you. This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kimberly Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. 17, nays are 0. Majority of all members have been voted in the affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210-081.
An ordinance amending Chapter 93900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Property Licenses and Owner Accountability, Section A906 entitled Property License Fees, Chapter 14604 entitled Accessory Usages and Structures, and Chapter 192400 entitled Hotel Room Rental Tax, to add and revise provisions related to the use of properties for limited lodging and hotel purposes and to the collection of hotel rental taxes in connection therewith.
This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim,
Aye.
Councilman Heenan,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman O,
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilman Squilla,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Council
Mr.
President
Pres-
Clark.
Mr. President, I apologize. This is Councilwoman Bass. I'm an aye as well. I'd like to be recorded as aye.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. The ayes are 17, nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passed. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210332.
An ordinance amending Title IX of the Philadelphia Code by amending Section 9203 related to street vendors by prohibiting street vending on certain portions of East Passyunk Avenue and surrounding areas.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for an amendment to Bill number 210332.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would like to offer an amendment to Bill number 210332. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and Bill number 210332 has been amended. Bill number 210332, as amended, will be placed on the final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210423.
An ordinance amending Section 121133 of the Philadelphia Code entitled All-Terrain Vehicles to address off-road vehicle use in the city of Philadelphia.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass,
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks,
Aye.
Councilman Dom,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim,
Aye.
Councilman Heenan,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman O,
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilman Squilla,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passed. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210364.
An ordinance amending various chapters of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the availability of feminine hygiene products in city facilities and making certain technical changes.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass,
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks,
Aye.
Councilman Dom,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim,
Aye.
Councilman Heenan,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman O,
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilman Squilla,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolution?
Resolution number 210516, entitled a resolution calling upon the Pennsylvania General Assembly to end unconstitutional race and wealth disparities in school funding and to fully adequately and fairly funded schools in Philadelphia and across the Commonwealth by utilizing the state's fair funding formula as the basis of all K through 12 education funding and providing adequate recurring state funding, introduced by Councilmember Gim.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Thank you so much, Council President. First of all, I want to acknowledge the hard work of our state delegation, especially our Appropriations Chair, Senator Vincent Hughes, and all members of the Philadelphia delegation and leadership, including our leader, Joanna McClinton, who've been working so hard on the issue of school funding, in particular at an unprecedented time. As my colleague, Councilmember Johnson, said earlier, Pennsylvania State Legislature has a $10 billion surplus. And there's no question that at this time, after decades of lawsuits about the unconstitutionality of funding in Pennsylvania around schools, that the most urgent issue we can call upon the General Assembly, or one of the most urgent issues we can call upon the General Assembly to do, is to truly end the unconstitutional race disparities in school funding. Racial inequity and funding inadequacy define Pennsylvania's school funding system. It's what defines it, even more than any kind of test score, any kind of building. It's all rooted back to a inequitable and racist funding formula. We are home to 6 of America's 50 most starkly segregated school districts, which separate the wealthiest, predominantly white districts from under-resourced schools that serve our mostly non-white citizenry, our children and youth. We rank 45th in the nation in terms of state-contributed funding to schools, and according to Power Interfaith, Pennsylvania schools with the fewest white students receive on average less than $2,000 per pupil in state funding. That's hundreds of millions of dollars in difference when you look at a school district the size of Philadelphia. In September, the lawsuit that was filed by advocates and by a number of school districts here will move forward before the Commonwealth Court. And the state of Pennsylvania has an opportunity to show that they can make change, because honestly, the legal trial may be in September, but this legislature has been on trial whenever our school doors open. Every time the kids they go to schools without libraries. We struggle to get enough counselors in schools. We do not have we've got overcrowding. We can't afford to pay teachers at a competitive rate. This system has to end. We have the resources to do it. Approximately 11% of the state education budget now runs through the fair funding formula, which was enacted in 2016. But it has not fundamentally changed the way school funding works in this Commonwealth, because it's simply too much money and we're too far behind. With the $10 billion, the state legislature has a chance to finally bring a sense of justice and responsibility to the school funding issue before they go on formal trial before a judge. We will look forward to showing what this looks like in a Commonwealth court. But at this point, I urge my colleagues to send a message now for our General Assembly to take a proactive step, end the unconstitutional race and wealth disparities in school funding, and to run additional money through the fair funding formula as the basis of all K-12 education funding, and allocate that $10 billion to finally fix our schools. Thank you very much. And with that, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. The moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, have it. Resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 210523, entitled a resolution calling upon the Congress of the United States to enact the Law Enforcement Education and Accountability for People with Disabilities Initiative, bipartisan policing reform bills to address the high incidence rate of violence involving people with disabilities, offered by Senator Bob Casey, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I want to thank Senator Casey for this legislation that he's introduced regarding this critical issue. His motivation for this legislation is based on the tragic killing that we all are very cognizant of Walter Wallace Jr. In West Philadelphia. Those who have physical and learning differences have a higher level of countering this type of violence, and I think it's incumbent upon us now as a legislative body to use our advocacy to push forward and support this legislation in the Congress. Senator Casey has been a strong advocate for those who have learning and physical differences for a number of years from his work not only regarding autism, but for all people that have disabilities. I want to thank him for introducing this legislation, especially in this month, June, which is Disability Pride Month. And just as a reminder that we still have much more work to do, that we do not have additional tragic situations like the Walter Wallace killing in the city of Philadelphia and around this nation. With that, Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the resolution being adopted, indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 210525, entitled a resolution calling upon the Pennsylvania General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to enact Senate Bill 598 to allow political subdivisions to restrict the presence and use of firearms at their properties and facilities, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. This issue, Senate Bill 598, is an important issue because we need to make sure that in municipal buildings, we're doing all that we can to stop the continued gun violence that we've seen not only in our cities but around the nation. The Pennsylvania Municipal League, where I serve as president, has been supporting this legislation, and it's critical that we do this type of legislation in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, members of the General Assembly have been going the opposite direction in recent legislation in reference to concealed carry permits, as well as trying to restrict the ability of cities like Philadelphia to enact its own gun control laws. But we need to make sure that our citizens are safe when they're in public buildings like City Hall or Municipal Services Building, and we should not be having guns come into those buildings. As we, as members of City Council, as other people who are doing public business are in those buildings, we don't need to have guns in those locations. And I think it continues the advocacy that we've seen at the Pennsylvania Municipal League to allow cities to enact laws that allow them to govern themselves. And with that, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
A resolution authorizing the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold hearings regarding making permanent in the Philadelphia Code to permit outdoor dining spaces on city streets and sidewalks and the outdoor entertainment sidewalk cafe rules established pursuant during the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Council President.
Chair
Can I get a
recognizes
point of
Councilman
information,
Johnson.
please, the sponsor of the bill?
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a point of information.
Thank you, Council President. For the sponsor of the bill, Councilman Don, could you just give a real quick, brief, just clarification on your bill?
It's really to have hearings, not a bill, it's to have hearings on where we go from here regarding the outdoor dining. Because the outdoor dining legislation expires the end of this year, and we want to be able to come back at least in September and be able to tell our restaurant people what the future looks like. So it's really to listen to and hear from people in the industry as to what should we be doing in the city going forward, and what's best for the Philadelphia down the road.
Thank you very much.
Point of information.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Yes, I want to thank the author of this resolution, because from Main Street to Market Street, there is no consistent diagram outline for these outdoor dinings. In some cases, you have entire streets blocked off. If you go Sampson Street, I believe around 15th to 16th, you can't get a vehicle through. In other areas, we've experienced traffic accidents involving some of those outdoor dining facilities. The other day, I had an opportunity to be down at Barclay Prime on their outdoor dining, and it was well thought out. It had HVAC. It had 3 areas open on all sides, but no one is really clear about or predicting how to design and build these structures and whether or not they're in locations that can be permanent. And I wanted to give that benefit to Member Johnson.
Thank you. Councilwoman Parker, did you wish to be recognized?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I too, just as a point of information, wanted to note for the record that I thank Councilmember Dom for introducing this resolution. And Mr. President, I've said from the very beginning, even during our last budget process when we were moving in this direction, that I was excited about seeing outdoor dining get established in the city of Philadelphia, and clearly wanted to make sure that the structures that you heard Councilmember Jones so explicitly just explain. Councilmember Don took me on the tour, and we walked to see all of those that were established. And, you know, Mr. President, in my normal traditional, what I usually see in the suburbs and getting a little frustrated why I don't see them over here in the city, I said to Councilmember Dom, this should be permanent. This should be standard operating procedure for restaurants in the city of Philadelphia, because in some instances, they can almost double their capacity. But we do have to deal with rules, regs, and firm designs for structure. So Councilmember Dom, I look forward to working with you on this issue in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, Councilman Dom, offer your motion again.
Okay, I move.
Council President, this is Councilman Heenan. May I be recognized?
I recognize Councilman Heenan. Just saw you.
Sorry, I know the Microsoft team hand wave sometimes hard to see, but I just wanted to chime in because we've been working with Councilmember Dom and Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson trying to address these issues. And as other members has noted, as you yourself back in the spring, it's complicated. It is not a one-size-fits-all situation for regulations, and for a department to rush a one-size-fits-all, I think it might be a little bit irresponsible. And I think, you know, the action and the timing of Councilmember Dom and Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson is taken along with myself is responsible. It's appropriate, and we want to get it right, and we want to make sure that it lasts for sustainability and at all different levels and in all neighborhoods with options. I had somebody say to me that, you know, when you have a limited space inside, you know, it's about, you know, butts and chairs, right? And, you know, for their longevity and their success, especially for smaller businesses where, you know, they risk it all, they're putting everything on the line, having a seat outside, increasing its capacity responsibly, could be critical to their success moving forward, especially coming out of this pandemic. So I want to thank Councilmember Dom.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, Councilman Dom, let's start over again.
Okay. I will thank my co-sponsors, Councilmember Heaton and Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted.
We have an additional bill called up from the second reading and final passage calendar by Councilmember Heeman, Bill number 210204, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Cotman Avenue, Milner Street, Princeton Avenue, and the Delaware River.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 separate days, the question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kennedy Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 17. Nays are 0. Majority of the members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes.
There are no other bills or resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And right now, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion to reset.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand in recess until the completion of the public meeting of the Committee of the Whole, which is scheduled to convene at 4 p.m. today.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council stand in recess until the completion of the public meeting of the Committee of the Whole, which is scheduled to convene at 4 p.m. today. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Council will stand in recess until the completion of the public meeting of the Committee of the Whole. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I apologize, sir. Point of information, it is usually during this time that we would have comments and speeches for the minority and majority, and I know we will have the opportunity when we reconvene, but Mr. President, I have a few comments that I would like to make with a sense of urgency, sir, if you give me the ability to do so.
Well, seeing how, as you asked me in front of thousands and thousands of people, how could I say no?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will reserve my comments about legislation, and I have notes here. So for Gilmore Richardson, Green, the home ownership legislation, I will reserve those so we can do that in the end after we reconvene. Do want to state for the record that the Labor and Civil Service Committee meeting will be held immediately following this, and ask the members to please click on that link so that we can have a quorum to get started and proceed with the testimony. And a special thank you to our colleague, Council Member and Vice Chair Brian O'Neill, for picking up for me when I have to step out. However, I have to address, for the benefit of the viewing audience here today, something that occurred earlier that I would normally not address. I would just have let it go, Mr. President. For the record, several of you have noted that in a very unconventional way, Council President was trying to get adjusted with his schedule, his script several times during the hearing. I want you to know today that both he and I received an enormous amount of text messages that were constantly flowing nonstop. And this was as a result for the viewing public of what was, witnessed during the invocation and immediately following the invocation. And I would have normally let this go, but, apparently, someone was not on mute. And Philadelphia, I know I have a very distinct voice, and, I'm working on my tone, intonation, and inflection, but I do need to say to you that Council Member Sherelle Parker, Majority Leader for this City Council, did not have any technical difficulties during the invocation and or afterwards. Not only did people text me and text you, Mr. President, saying that is awful, it is disrespectful what is occurring right now, They called my staff, text my staff, and while my district office staff was in the office on Wadsworth Avenue, two business owners, I mean, who would have ever thought that two business owners on the avenue or have the television on watching us, you know, while they're running their businesses, but they went and knocked on my district office door and said, Sherelle needs to go on mute because that's awful. Let me say this, Mr. President. I'll take it when it's well-deserved because I am a technical dinosaur, but that was not Sherelle Parker, and I don't know whether or not Councilmember Gim has any comments that she wants to make about this, but because it has had such an impact on members of the community as it relates to them communicating with me about this issue, I needed to clarify this for the record. And to my colleagues, I want to apologize for being this detailed to you, but the number of text messages and inquiries that I received about this, it required that I clear this record formally. Thank you so very much, Mr. President. And the other comments I have about legislation that was introduced and passed today by my colleagues, I will save that during the appropriate time for speeches in the majority when we reconvene. Thank you so very much, colleagues, for the leeway you just provided.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, folks, we've recessed and we'll be back shortly. Again, Labor and Civil Service Committee will be following shortly. Thank you all, and I'll see you guys in a few.
Thank you.
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Okay, Philadelphia City Council is taking a recess. They will reconvene as a committee of the whole at 4 p.m. So you heard that here live. It was a very extended, long City Council of the whole session, City Council live session here on WURD. You don't get that anywhere else. Had some, quite dramatic too. At certain points, we had a fairly dramatic commentary-filled invocation, which I'm sure people are talking about. And we also had, as you heard at the end, Council Majority Leader Sherelle Parker apologize for what was clearly a technical mistake on her part. But it gets into some other conversations. I think, people, I think, tend to unfairly pick on Majority Leader too much about her voice. I think that has to stop a little bit. But anyway, that got a little dramatic at the end. So we will continue to keep a close eye on affairs that are happening in City Council. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about next week. Thanks for joining us here live for City Council Live on WURD 96.1 FM. 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Also, don't forget, we're back outside for the first time since pandemic. We will be outside tomorrow, Friday, June 11th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Fresh Grocer on Monument Road. We're having our Reawaken, Reopen, and Renew event, where you can join or renew your WURD membership for the discounted early bird rate of $75. So go to WURD Radio, WURDradio.com for more information. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Friday at the Fresh Grocer on Monument Road. It'll be a live broadcast from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I know people are missing seeing WURD out on the road, out in the street during those public events. So WURD is definitely looking forward to that, the first time being out in public on the scene since pandemic started. But, everyone, please continue to stay safe while you're outside and be considerate of others as well. I know indoor mask mandates have been lifted in the city, but the recommendation is still, because we have a lot of people out there unvaccinated, so the recommendation, the public health department recommendation for those unvaccinated is to continue to keep your mask on. And not such a bad idea for folks who've been vaccinated, as we're still going through the pandemic, to keep their mask on as well. Add a little bit of commentary on that. I'm Charles Ellison. I'm your anchor for City Council Live. Also host a reality check here on WURD. Want to thank Troy Wilmore as well. Want to thank Philadelphia City Council too for providing us with that stream of content each Thursday. We are headed into The Source. That's coming up next. Keep your WURD radio dial locked in. Philly and beyond. I want you to stay sharp, stay smart, but more importantly, please stay safe out there. I'll see you next week.